Cronos the New Dawn caught me off guard. It crept out quiet, smothered under the noise of Metal Gear Solid, Hell Is Us and Gears Reloaded. But for my money, Cronos steals the crown in this crowded release window. It's not perfect, it's lighter on horror than it wants you to think, but the tension still squeezes your ass like a dentist chair. The atmosphere is thick enough to make your lungs work overtime, and the sci-fi story keeps dangling just enough to drag you deeper in. So put the kettle on, grab a cuppa, and let me tell you why Cronos deserves a spot in your Steam library. The story in Cronos hits you with a big fat WTF right from the off. The game doesn't sit you down and spoon feed anything, it just scatters scraps in the environment and lets you piece it all together. You play as the Traveller, a helmeted lass who crash lands on Earth, Poland of all places, where the locals have been swapped out for all sorts of nasties. Something's clearly gone tits up then, and your mission is to extract some poor sod. At first, I'll be honest, I couldn't be arsed. I clearly thought, so what, another mystery box story. But as I started digging through the littered notes, listening to the personal accounts, I found myself slipping deeper into this broken world. I won't spoil the big story beats here, but let's just say when you finally track down the first lad that you're meant to save, things go Pete Tong real fast. From then on, I was hooked, lapping up every scrap of detail I could find to figure out what the bloody hell went wrong in this world. And hell is the right place to start, because Cronos lives and dies on its combat and the nasties that you're up against. Now I'll be straight, I'm still not sold on the shooting, but I'll come back to that in a bit. The real hook though is the enemies themselves. These rotten bastards will happily chow down on their fallen mates, sucking them up as if reenacting their heroine Sasha Grey. And when they bulk up, you'll know about it, because they will hit like a bus. There is a workaround. Torch the corpses before the feast begins. Trouble is, you've only got one fuel cell slot until you stumble across another little dispenser, so you've got to think ahead. And that's what I love about Cronos. Every fight becomes a warped little game of chess, only with monsters charging at you. And when you're up against these things, every bullet counts, because ammo is rarer than a sober bloke at your local. Sure, you'll find the odd fuel barrel practically winking at you, but blow it up too early and you've wasted it on one monster while his two mates are still on your ass like an Epstein house party. What adds another layer of complexity here is that your normal shots will do minimal damage, but you could charge the shot up more to give it far more damage, but that leaves you a little bit open. So the other strategy is riskier. Soften them all up, keep them limping, but don't finish the job. It's dangerous as hell because you've still got three snarling bastards breathing down your neck, but if you time it right, you can drop them in sequence and dodge the whole super mutant buffet scenario. Every fight then turns into a sick little gamble. Corpses everywhere, no ammo to spare, and you're wondering if this is where it all ends. It's chess, it's a game of chicken, and it's bloody tense in the best possible way. So why am I saying then that I'm not convinced by the shooting mechanics? Here's the cold truth. Those first encounters, yeah, they're terrifying, but give it an hour or two and you realise they're clumsy sods. Half the time you can just jog circles around them and chip away with melee. Sure, it's risky, they still hit hard like a sledgehammer, but their animations drag on just enough that you usually got time to make a sandwich before they swing again. In Resident Evil, speed, it feels vital. Here, you can leg it Usain Bolt style and barely break a sweat, as stamina is infinite. So how does Cronos keep the pressure on then? Well, it does it through that clunky as hell shooting. Guns feel heavy but sluggish, the reticule sways like you're constantly on the piss, and you'll miss more than you hit as enemies shuffle about. It's almost like the devs made the shooting deliberately awkward just to inject a bit of panic. Trouble is, that turned the horror down for me. Over time it stopped being scary survival and started feeling more like an action slog where melee was the smarter play if you wanted to save bullets. Now, before anyone jumps down my throat, yes, the shooting can be improved. You'll scavenge energy cells or flog valuables for bigger chunks of juice and then pump that into upgrades at save points and workstations. Boost your charge shot, trim down the sway, shave off reload time, it's all gonna help. The trouble is, by the end, you're so juiced up, you're less struggling survivor and more Satan's personal exterminator. The balance here, it feels off, making the shooting clunky at the start only to smooth it out later isn't really smart design, it's just frustrating. I'd have much rather seen a sharper, more responsive gunplay system from the off, paired with nastier, more relentless enemies to keep you on edge. Even a stamina bar to stop you running in circles would have upped the stakes here, because that corpse feeding mechanic, it's proper clever stuff, and it's where the real challenge should have stayed. Now let's talk horror. Cards on the table here, lads. I'm a right pussy with scary games. I'll scream at a cat's fart in a horror game. So yeah, Cronos had me wobbling early on. The atmosphere is thick, the graphics are gorgeous, and those first few encounters had me hovering over the pause button like a little bitch. The standout moments are those set pieces, stumbling into a nest and having to leg it out with half the world chasing you, proper brown trousers stuff. But once the backtracking kicked in, and once my guns were fully souped up, the fear started draining away. What began as Dead Space vibes slowly drifted into something closer to Control. Flashy guns, more action, less of the dread. And to be fair, that's not a deal breaker, it just depends what you're after. A full-on horror gauntlet beginning to end, or an atmospheric, slow-paced action ride with a few jump scares thrown in, which is really where Cronos sits in. The game world itself deserves some credit though, mainly because of its simplicity. You're not juggling 50 guns with daft animations, just 4 core weapons plus a couple of cheeky hidden ones if you explore more. Ammo is scarce, but you can bang out bullets on the fly using scrap metal that you can pick up, and that changes how you play. Instead of ignoring side rooms and beelining it for the main quest, you're nosing into every corner because you know it's going to pay off. There's going to be more ammo, there's going to be bigger inventory, a stronger suit down the line. I also rate the lack of a map here. Normally that's a right pain in the arse, but here the layout is stripped back enough that you memorise it naturally. A few branching paths, a locked door here and there that suddenly opens later. It all clicks together without the need for Google Maps. The UI keeps the vibe too, it's clean, minimal, and lets the visuals do the talking. And visually, Cronos really is a little treat. Now, as regulars know, I'm running this on a 5090, recording at 4K with everything jacked up to the tits. Frame gen, DLSS, the happy ending in between. On that setup, I was cruising between 130 and 150 frames per second, dependent on the scene. Smooth as butter. But let's not dodge the elephant either. It's still Unreal Engine, so you'll get shader compilation on startup and the occasional micro stutter when new areas load in. Nothing game breaking, but it's there and it is noticeable. Now, my rig is a tank, yeah, but drop a tier or two and I reckon performance will start to wobble. So don't just take my word for it here. Check some proper benchmark roundups if you want numbers for those mid-range builds. What I can say though is that when it's running, it looks bloody gorgeous. The graphics pull you straight into that dark, gritty world, and the art direction carries it even when Unreal is having a little cough. And a quick one, if you're enjoying this No Bollocks review, hit subscribe and like to please the YouTube overlords, and cheers to every single one of you. Now, tone is where Cronos really shines for me. It's dark, but always lit just enough. A flickering street lamp here, a shaft of light cutting through some blinds, fog and mist rolling across ruined streets. The flashlight clicks on at just the right moments, giving you only enough visibility to keep your arse clenched. The environments are dense with detail too, cracked concrete, twisted metal, walls that look like they've seen a few hundred beatings. Even your character has that heavy Big Daddy heft from Bioshock to it. Atmosphere then, it drips off every corner, and the game rarely misses a chance to remind you that the world has properly gone to shit. But look close and those little cracks start to show. Assets repeat way more than they should. I saw this same bloody Christmas tree enough times to start singing carols, and while the colour palette of browns and blacks and greys, it nails that bleak tone, it does get samey by the midpoint. A bit more risk in the environments. I don't know, a ruined sports stadium perhaps, or a disused airport could have just added some richer flavour here. As it stands, familiarity sets in sooner than it should. Still, make no mistake, this is a stunning looking beast when it's firing on all cylinders. Sound design is where Cronos really flexes its muscles. Think back to the original Alien films, that constant hum of the ship, always there, always unsettling. Cronos does the same with its world. You'll catch the whisper of wind, distant dogs barking, your own boots clunking differently dependent on the service. The devs clearly then decided that creepy music wasn't the way in here. Atmosphere was, and they nailed it. There's always this low thrum of ambience, a quiet reminder it could all go to hell in a second. And when it does, you'll know about it. Monsters roar, your magnum cracks like a thunderclap, and the whole mood shifts on a dime. Music is used sparingly too. It creeps in when it needs to, but never steals the scene. Even the voice acting holds up, which in a game like this is often where the budget runs out and they drag in the free interns to read a shit script. And trust me, I've seen enough Pornhub to know how bad a script can sound. Overall then, the audio here is top notch, and it's a massive part of why Cronos will keep you immersed. Some games then, they slip in under the radar and end up walloping you sideways. Cronos: The New Dawn is one of those. It's not perfect, the combat swings between brilliant and frustrating, and the world manages to feel both immersive and a bit stiff at times. That's what she said. What it nails, it really nails. What it fumbles, well, sadly, you'll notice it enough to bring you down a peg or two. But even with all the rough edges, this is still an excellent survival horror that'll have you grinning and itching to dive back in to uncover more of its secrets. 2025 is already stacked with heavy hitters, and for my money, Cronos is the dark horse so far. For some, it might even creep into Game of the Year territory. It's that good, and definitely one the Cockney Gamer recommends that you give a little whirl. Until next time, my lovelies, love to you all. Reggie out.